Okay, I'd like to get started if we could, please. Those that know me know that I like to start on time because I recognize the importance for a lot of people of also finishing on time, but getting as much as we can into the workshop and the event. I'd like to start by welcoming, I'm going to try it, Erik Johnsen from the Mission of Norway, and he's going to welcome us on behalf of the Mission of Norway. Erik?
Yes, dear all, welcome to Norway House. This building was actually built as a hotel in '68, but it was never used as one. Now it's the home of the Mission of Norway to the EU, our bilateral embassy to Belgium, and a number of other actors, but the mission is by far the largest group of people here. Every Norwegian ministry is actually represented down except one, and that is an indication of how broad our cooperation with the EU actually is. This week has been a week of science, research and innovation, and that's I'm very pleased with that. At the same time, it's been a little bit challenging with a number of activities going on at the same time. We started with Norway Day, Monday and Tuesday this week. This was a day to address future perspectives on European research and innovation policy and cooperation, with a special focus this year on energy, highlighting inter alia our expertise in this important area. And we were very pleased to have Director General Robert Jan Smits with us on this occasion. He made an excellent speech. Yesterday we had an outreach event highlighting research programs and projects under the EEA and Norway financial mechanisms, including presentations from 5 beneficiary countries. It was also very interesting to hear about this. Today you are here, and tomorrow as well. And we continue on Monday. We will have a seminar on the Arctic and knowledge research needs, as well as space technologies. This is in relation to the consultation that the Commission has started on a new Arctic policy strategy, which they will present late this year or beginning of 2016. The Arctic and the issue of climate change are, of course, intimately linked. So if this sounds interesting, there is a list in the back of the room where you can sign up for this seminar on Monday. And behind all this activity lies a clear priority in our research policy of participation in the framework program for research and innovation, and also the European research area. I would say that we are in general quite active as regards the development of the European research area, and Director General Robert Jan Smits pointed out on Tuesday that Norway actually is the only country besides the UK which is participating in all 10 JPIs. So that's quite amazing, I think myself. Today we are pleased to make a small contribution to your important work by providing meeting space here at Norway House. So I wish you a fruitful seminar, and I guess I will be seeing you for a little bit around for the next 2 days. So good luck. Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Dagmar Blay to come up, and Dagmar Blay is the current chair of the Management Committee of the JPI Climate, but has also been leading on the JPI Climate Module 2, which is the one that's been leading in the development of this workshop. So Dagmar?
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would also like to welcome you on behalf of JPI Climate, the joint programming initiative on connecting climate knowledge for Europe, and especially on behalf of the Working Group 2 of JPI Climate, which has its focus on researching and advancing climate services development. I'm very happy that so many of you followed our invitation to attend this workshop, and I think we have here more than 80 people from around 20 countries on our participants list, and this is also a proof of the strong interest that we could evoke during the last years in this topic of climate services, and to which, to some extent, also JPI Climate contributed. Before I want to start this workshop, I want to give you a little bit more information about its background. We started 5 years ago to build up this joint programming initiative on climate, and we identified climate services to be one out of 4 main themes that we considered important to deal with in this initiative, beside decadal climate predictions, sustainable transformation of society, and decision-making tools. And all these 4 modules together have the overall aim of providing integrated climate knowledge for decision-making, which is, so to speak, the core of the JPI Climate. And the climate services topic has a special role in this whole structure, because it can also be seen as as a binding element between all those modules, and also between the real science, pure science, and the application and the use of this science, for example, for decision-making or long-term transformations in society. Well, since we started in 2010, a lot has happened also regarding this topic of climate services. In the very beginning, it was mainly United Kingdom and Germany where first activities had started regarding climate services, but meanwhile several other initiatives have constituted themselves: the Global Framework for Climate Services, the Copernicus Climate Change Service, and also the European Commission has developed a roadmap for the next years on the development of climate services. We will hear about all that later on, and during this process, also new questions came up during the last years about what roles these different actors could play in the development of climate service, or in the whole field of climate services. And we will also cover this aspect in a second part of our workshop today. This workshop is part of a coordination and support action kindly funded by the European Commission. And within this coordination and support action, there is one task especially dealing with researching and advancing climate services development. And in the very beginning, we wanted this workshop to evaluate what we were working on during the last years in 2 fast-track activities, one on mapping climate services providers, and the other one on a better understanding the actual state regarding user needs. And we thought this workshop to bring together stakeholders and climate service providers and scientists to evaluate what we had developed in the working group so far. But meanwhile, the process even went longer, went faster, and implementation also made a big step forward, as we're now planning an AeroNet, as you might know already, and you will hear about that also later on. And we're planning to launch a call within this AeroNet. So this workshop also got a different aspect now included, which is bringing together scientists and stakeholders and the different actors, also for already developing concrete research ideas, and maybe already building already consortia. This is the second part this afternoon of our workshop, and tomorrow also. So I hope all participants of these different groups can gain benefit for their own purposes out of this workshop, and I wish you all of us a very fruitful workshop 2 days. Thank you. Now, I have to introduce also Roger Street, who is also since 5 years, I think, already co-chairing with me the working group 2 on climate services. He more from the scientific side and myself more from the funder perspective, and I think that's a good combination where we have worked very effectively, I think, in the last years. He has been the former chair of the management committee, and he's also chairing a task in the coordination and support action on dissemination and outreach. And so this is how he is involved in his workshop, and he is chairing you for the afternoon session also.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm giving you an introduction now.
Thank you. Well, it's very nice to get to this point where we're now getting this group together. This is something we've been looking at. A number of us in Module 2 have been really talking about this and getting it together. But it's also getting it together in the context of some of these very interesting changes that are going on. So I'm very pleased to get to this point. You will notice that there's cameras on, and we're recording this part of the session, and we'll be only recording the presentations. And that was the idea of doing that is there's a number of people that said they were unable to join us, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to have the benefit of the presentations. But we will not be filming the brokerage event and recording any of that. That is completely open. And that is, it's completely open, is that it's completely, you're open and free to talk how you want to talk. When we put this together, we thought it would be very useful to provide you with some basic information. And that's what we've tried to do in the first session after I introduced this workshop. And that's, we're going to hear about the Horizon 2020 roadmap. And then this is the roadmap, as you will hear about, that is directing, or it's not, is informing, sorry, I got to be careful there, informing the Horizon 2020 investments in climate services. We're also going to hear about the JPI AirNet for climate services, and another very significant component of the activities that are going on, which is Copernicus and the Copernicus Climate Service. We're going to hear from that. So you get an idea of starting to understand much better the environment. And then what we thought we'd do is we'd talk about how the different roles people play in delivering climate services, but also in using climate services. So we really wanted to start with that user's perspective. And this is very consistent with the direction that we're trying to go in, is to have that user's perspective right up front. We also thought looking at it from a public good and understanding what climate services are as a public good, the role of the private sector in climate services, and then promoting and enabling innovation, the role of the EIT Climate Kick. We thought this would be very informative and really start help you understanding some of the environment which you're now going to be working in. Then we're going to start out with the brokerage session. And the thing we're trying to try with the brokerage session is that we're first of all going to give you another little bit of a perspective from the other JPIs that are playing in the climate services area. We're going to hear from JPI Water. JPI Urban Environment will not be with us, but they've given us some information. Oh, sorry. Thank you. JPI, I wander. I apologize. Anyone that knows me, I can't sit in front. Anyways, we'll have JPI Urban Europe. They will not be here with us, but they've given us some information. JPI Fascia will be here, and then and also JPI Oceans. And these are all the JPIs that are wanting to use climate services. So it's again giving you a perspective that you may want to bring into your discussions. And then we're going to start the brokerage event. And the brokerage event is going to be run using an open space concept. If any of you have seen this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But we're looking for people that want to come up and put ideas forward and say, I'd like to get a group together to discuss this type of idea, this type of thought. We're moving in this direction. And so those people that want to join that group can go and do that. So we've been planting a number of ideas. When you got your invitation, hopefully you saw that we were trying to do that, and some of you come with ideas, and maybe this will inspire you to do that and to undertake that discussion. But we also wanted to have this as an opportunity to continue discussing this, and that's why it's a lunch-to-lunch event. And the lunch-to-lunch event is that we have, as you see, a standing dinner tonight, and which will follow this meeting. The idea is to continue your discussions and maybe learning what's going on in some of those areas. So we thought that would be very useful, and continue those discussions this evening if you want as a group. Tomorrow we'll be starting at, there's 8:30 for tea and coffee, But at 9 o'clock, we thought there's just a couple of other things we thought we believed it'd be useful for you to know about. And one is the European Climate Service Partnership and the ECOMS. And again, it's understanding that environment, getting a better picture of what's going on. And then, as Dagmar talked about, some of the work that's been going on in Module 2, where we've been trying to understand who the users are and what their needs are, but also trying to understand who the providers are and who is providing this information. So it's to give you a little bit of that. And then another brokerage session. So you have a chance to maybe further some ideas. Maybe during the night you said, hey, I'd like to talk about this. I'd like to pull some people. I've got an idea now that's now crystallized and I want to talk about this. So maybe some new groups will form and we can get off and have those types of discussions. These groups, it's open, it's not recorded, notes aren't being taken except for by yourself, those that are leading those groups. So you can talk about consortia, you can talk about some of your ideas and start to flesh these out. There will be people wandering around. There's funders here. Some of the commission is here. Some of the national funders are here. So you can, maybe have a chance to meet them and explore some ideas with them as well. So that was the idea of this. It's not, we're not going to sit there, okay, can we now have a presentation from this group and can you explain all your research you're going to be doing? No, we're not going to do that. This is allowing you to do that, to understand. The only thing we're going to take note of is the different sort of types of ideas, but that's just so that we can have a discussion here as a group. And then we'll wrap up and we'll wrap up with lunch tomorrow. So that's our plan. So it's really to give you an idea of an opportunity, I should say, to get a better understanding of the environment and a better understanding of maybe some opportunities that are out there. The calls are coming out. The calls, some of them are actually there, and then more calls are coming out. So we want to make sure that you're thinking about these things and try to think about some of the people here. As Dagmar said, there's 20 countries here. So it gives you an opportunity to spread across. It'd be nice if there was 28, but we're getting there. We're getting more and more. So, an opportunity to spread across. So that's our plan. That is our plan for today. As I said, we'll have the first sessions will be recorded. Don't feel that if you want to ask a question, please free to ask a question. Is anyone concerned with it being recorded, let me know. Just let me know. I'm not going to try and center you out here if you have a concern about that. We've checked with all the speakers. I think everyone was okay with that, the speakers. So I think we're all set to go. I don't know anything about a fire alarm. The gentlemen that are walking in are here to protect us, that you see walking in from the street with those funny things in their hand. So we don't have to be worried about that. But I don't know of any fire alarm. I will mention there's Wi-Fi in this room. The sign is at the back over in there. It's Norway House or Norway House 2, and the code is Norway 06. Okay? All small characters. So people want that. Is everyone okay with the way we're going and we're ready to head off here? Any questions anyone has? So this is your opportunity. Make sure you ask questions. We really want to ask those questions. And when I'll be leading the session on the brokerage session, and I'll be really looking for your ideas. So this is an opportunity to explore those. And you'll get a chance to explore in various contexts. Dagmar, anything else you can think of?
It's just if somebody feels uncomfortable with being recorded while asking questions, you can also give those questions with some written form to Ivy. And then we'll announce your question on the microphone.
Okay. Thank you. It's back to you, Dagmar, to chair this next session.
Yes, I would like to welcome now Marco Gemmer from the European Commission, who is working in the DG Research and Innovation and the unit of Climate Action, and he will give you information on the European roadmap for climate services that was developed during the last months.
I think I need help.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you need
Is it
help?
there?
You recognize your file?
Yeah. As long as I know I need help, it still shows a sign of sanity. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues of the JPI, Thanks for the JPI to organize this workshop and for the Norwegian colleagues to host this workshop. You mentioned you want 28 member states in the House, but we want 28 plus.
Yes.
And we are aware that Norway is a very active player in the Research Framework Program 7, but also in Horizon 2020, in the JPI, and in particular on climate services. And I think Dagmar and Roger have explained the climate services, why we are here, how this whole climate services community has evolved over the years. And so maybe I jump right into the topic. What can we do with research and innovation for climate services? The heading of this session is European Arenas and Funding Opportunities for Climate Services. You will see in my last slide, it's not only about research and innovation. We will continue funding research, but we will move towards the innovation, and when it's about the practical implementation at the end of adaptation of climate services or mitigation actions, you will need also different funding communities. So what do we need in research and innovation for climate services? Before I present to you the roadmap, which really exists, this is one of the two last copies of the second set we printed. We prefer not to print anymore, but we have produced this tiny URL where you can download it or you can use a search engine. This is, I think, the correct term, instead of saying Googling it. What can we do in research innovation? The first task is to create the demand for solutions. And the second task for research and innovation is to create the solutions. This sounds very easy, but it isn't, because we've heard this was a long process in developing the climate services that were coming from research and innovation. But we still are not yet in the market. There's not the big application of climate services at the level that we would wish it would be. So we need many more activities to go there, to come there. And this is clearly a task of research and innovation. So we cannot jump into the implementation if the concept is not sound yet, if we need to understand better the market, as Roger has explained before. So serving these tasks of creating and providing the demand will mean we need to be very careful how we spend the funding for research and innovation for climate services. And it also means that the community has to think in a different term, not science for scientists or research for researchers, which includes already institutions performing research. We have to get the private sector on board. The private sector not only because there is funding, but also because we have a lot of knowledge in the private sector that needs to be tapped. And we will never get this knowledge into our activities if we don't cooperate with the private sector. And I will use the first time now and maybe the last time for today the term co-creation. Roger is hiding when I use the term co-creation. It's one of his favorite, but it's absolutely true. We cannot create research and innovation without doing it together with the final end users, with the different communities that have not been involved before, but that might require the climate services. And this is one of the reasons why we have launched this roadmap for climate services, to see where can we put the investments in research and innovation, what kind of actors have been out of the loop yet, what kind of new activities do we need, and how can we structure the funding on the European side, because there's many actors involved, as you can see in the program, but also later in the actors. I was given 15 minutes, so I deleted all the text from my slides to be faster, and I just answer the question that you might be interested in. Why do we need a research and innovation roadmap for climate services? It's very simple. We have the common vision to build Europe's resilience to climate change by strengthening significantly the global market for climate services. So climate services as a tool. We have to develop this tool. So this is the why. We know about all the whys, why climate services. I'm not going into the nitty-gritties now. Who has done this workshop? Again, no text. We can be very, this roadmap. First of all, it was the community. 1.5 years ago, we had a big workshop with 180 people from different communities in Brussels that we called Towards a Global Market for Climate Services. And after this one-day workshop, the community said, we need a structured approach towards developing the climate services. It was not enough to provide more predictions, to provide more maps. there was the need articulated by the community to have structured funding to go towards this market. So I don't say what we have done before was wrong. We will continue doing what we have done before. But climate services is now a specific element which brings in the innovation view of the approach with the market, and the market going beyond the traditional market that we had in FP7, for instance. This roadmap was done by an expert group we had contracted with representatives from the JPI Food, Agriculture, Climate Change, another expert who works for the International Energy Agency, a colleague from a climate service center in Germany, and one expert who was the rapporteur, which by chance was Roger Street also. So the omnipresent Roger Street of climate services provided this document, and which will be a funding, not a guideline. It will inspire us putting the money at the right place. Not only us, but hopefully also other players. We had a supporting group from the different commission services, and many of these are also, you will find in the program, ECMWF, the Climate Kick, the colleagues of the Joint Research Center, and many more. So we didn't do it by ourselves. We did it as good as possible in the time and budget available. And we are aware that this roadmap will need an update. The bigger our community gets, the more project ideas are being developed, the more knowledge we have. And we also included many stakeholders through interviews. I think about 80 different stakeholder groups were asked, where do you see the need? How could you be involved in climate services? So all of this information then were going into the roadmap. So what is the roadmap? We said it's like a framework for actors to align decisions and investments to achieve the vision. Because research and innovation doesn't go along without funding and investments. Investments in time, investments in thinking, ideas, sometimes also ideas that might fail. And we learn a lot from also stories that didn't work out. So this is what the roadmap is. I summarized, we had a one-day launch event this March for the roadmap, so I'm not going to speak one day, I just summarized, you will be able to read the roadmap. We have three main challenges that were identified, and I think this was a very important step, because when you talk to 100 stakeholders, you will hear 100 different challenges, but how to group the challenges, to be able to have a structured approach towards the development of this market for climate services. One challenge is to enable the market growth. Another is the building of the framework for the market. The third one is enhancing quality and relevance. And this, what I said in my first sentence, requires us to continue doing what we have done before, having better prediction models, working on the scientific side. So we cannot stop doing these things. But we have three different challenges we have to tackle now to build this market for climate services. So the experts then came up with 9 main activities and 25 specific actions, which should be done when and by whom. We have 3 different time frames: short-term, medium-term, long-term. So I think for the investment in research and innovation, it's important to know when do I have to fund what. And this is where the experts came up with a plan, where to have urgent actions, where to have continuous long-term actions, and who should do this one. Of course, from our side, we looked into EU and international actors. We cannot propose a roadmap for all actors that are putting funding in. We have one instrument, for instance, the JPI, which is an initiative by the member states who are putting in funding, and associated countries like Norway, with a considerable support also to the JPI. But this is where here we can make suggestions, but we cannot suggest any company to take any investment. So this is why we looked into the EU side first. An example, instead of showing the whole roadmap like we did before, Roger, I come with one example for one simple reason. No, it's not here. ST means short term. This is an example for a short-term activity. We launched this roadmap in March. We have implemented it already. This was an activity to identify which sectors or markets are mature. Where do we have climate services on the ground already? Where do we have markets that are not mature, that need additional support? And we did an expression of interest to the different communities to come up with ideas for demonstration projects. A demonstration project is another activity in the roadmap that I'm not showing now, and this helped us to decide where can we put funding for a demonstration project to show how to exploit the added value of climate services, to develop climate services for end users, to show what is the added value in economic terms, but also in societal impact for the company, for the community around this company, for instance. And so we did this expression of interest. We have received 60 very good proposals. This helped us to design a call text for the next work program. So this is an example for a short-term activity. And here it also says Horizon 2020, in this case, Research and Innovation, our Director General, we have done it ourselves. This is to show you how this roadmap is structured. We have another example, which is short to medium term, which could be done by Horizon 2020, for instance, through the JPI Climate. And this is about translating the user's results of services, and which lists a different kind of workshops, matchmaking workshops, developing new ideas. And this workshop today is one of these ideas. So we have started implementing what the experts proposed with different actors. In this case, the JPI Climate, the first example, Horizon 2020, but we can think of many other actors. So we started looking into the different actors with EU funding available that help us implementing this roadmap. I'm not naming them all. If I named them all, there was no need to put them all there. We had discussions with the Climate Kick, for instance, to see the Climate Kick is much closer to the market than we are in Research and Innovation with Horizon 2020 as an instrument to place funding for activities. To see how can we cooperate to implement parts of this roadmap, to bring in new ideas. Copernicus is a very important actor in climate services now already, hopefully more in future. How can this roadmap support the activities of Copernicus? So we are in discussion with the colleagues of Copernicus in-house in the Director General for Growth, but also with ECMWF, who was also involved in the preparation of the roadmap. We are talking to the member states through the JPI Climate with the Aranet, for instance, which will help implementing parts of the roadmap. So this is the task, this is what we are doing right now from arena of funding opportunities. This is how it's called. There will be opportunities to interact later. If you're interested, please download the roadmap and see where you would identify yourself as an actor in the roadmap. As I've said, we started from the EU side. Realistically saying, the whole community is expanding, is changing. We know much better now about the problems, about the opportunities especially for climate services. There will be a need to update the roadmap, maybe next year, when we started implementing. If we don't update the roadmap, we have done something wrong, because it's such an active community we are working in. And so I invite you to be part of this. If you don't have funding as an actor, as an active player with many ideas for climate services, to achieve this vision, to have a resilient Europe, but also contribute to the resilience globally. We identified, for instance, GFCS has to be supported with our activities. Not in monetary terms, but with the results in order to help them get further in other continents that we don't have direct access to. So thank you very much for your interest. We can also do it over coffee.
So now I wanted to introduce to you our next speaker, who is Patrick Monfray. Patrick Monfray has been vice chair for the last 2 years in JPI Climate, and since 3 weeks now he's the actual current chair of the Joint Programming Initiative on Climate. And Patrick is also the proposed chair for our planned Aranet, which, as you heard already, is part of Horizon 2020 and also part of this of this climate services roadmap. And Patrick will inform you about our plans now. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. So I will present. Please, Dagmar, the PowerPoint. It's maybe there is some. It's error.
Sorry about that. Let's go. Oop. Okay. Hopefully that's okay.
So I will present from the research side of climate services and the contribution to the implementation of this European roadmap. Under the, I would say, the supervision of JPI Climate, we have set up a consortium to drive an Aranet for 2016-2020 for the next 5 years on European research area for climate services. This consortium is made of a mixing of countries, of course. There is 16 countries involved, but there is 41 partners, and we have a mixture of research funding organization, 12 funders, with 28 research performing organization. And it's a specific Aranet where we are mixing, and I think it's quite innovative to have both funders and performers within a same consortium. So basically that means in practice that the funders bring cash in the systems, but the research performers bring their in-kind support in the systems. It's a little bit complex, but that could provide a potential to along the change between the research community up to program managers and funders. By the way, it's still open for funders and performers. Particularly, we are still targeting more Eastern countries, new member states. So I don't want to detail here. That's basically the list of the different agencies, funding agencies or performing organization, and potential support from them. It's not at this stage. It's just a proposal, so they are never assigned to give this model. It's a potential model. So basically, what we have raised within this Aranet up to now, it's a potential support up to 70 million euros. Basically 40% from the funder side and 60% from the research performing organization. We will not use all these 70 million because in practice you have to open a call to select a research team, so that means in practice there will be some countries that will be overcommitted in terms of budget, and some will be undercommitted, so we cannot spend all this potential. But we are targeting basically to contribute up to 50 million euros, and that will be co-funded, we hope, if Commission agree. We are waiting the output of our submission to the Commission with a potential 25 million euros from the Commission. So basically it's quite classical Aranet. That means it's first dedicated to a joint call, transnational call in Europe. There is some specificities because we have both cash and in-kind, so that means in practice we have two different topics, one for the cash, one for the in-kind, that will be prepared with distinct topics. The call will be issued next year. I will give you a schedule on that. And after the submissions, that will be two steps, and what is particularly important to ensure the overall coherence for in-kind project and cash project. We will use an independent expert committee and the same expert committee that will evaluate the full picture of the project that we will receive. Of course, after the selection, the funded project will be followed, monitored, up to valorization, communication, and impact. So basically, it's ARNet is 5 years. We open to support project for 3 years and up to the end of ARNet 2020. In addition, we have additional activities. These additional activities that we want to develop will be particularly to map both national and international initiative in climate services and research climate services, with strong link in particular with other European initiatives as Key Climate, Copernicus, for example. I will give more detail on that. Of course, we need a strong coordination between the different packages. Here's the governance. I don't want to detail too much, just more emphasis the green boxes, that's the different boards that we will use. So the independent scientific evaluation committee, but on the right side we will use also a transdisciplinary advisory board from JPI Climate, plus representative from Key Climate and Copernicus. And of course with strong link with Commission and JPI Climate. What else? What I could give you as a flavor, because up to now it's the core text has not been draft. We will do that during autumn with the different cash consortium and in-kind consortium. So, but we have yet a broad separation. The cash is targeting co-development for user needs and action-oriented project. So it's really promoting user-driven climate services and stimulate research relevant for that. We are targeting large mobilization in academics, including interdisciplinaries, particularly targeting social sciences and humanities, and make link transdisciplinary project also that link with field actors. The typical size of our instrument could be between €500,000 to €5 million that complement bigger objects that, for example, are promoted by European Commission over €7 million. Of course, all projects need to have a clear European added value. For the in-kind, it's different. For the cash, we expect it's a two-step procedure. We expect that will be a highly selective process for the cash. Maybe 1 on 5 or 1 on 10 project will be selected, depend the pressure, of course. But for the in-kind, it's totally different. It's within the different member states. There is a lot of national climate services that are developed with the different countries, with different structures. Some countries centralized, some other countries delocalized. And what we want to promote here with in-kind topic with this ARNet is to promote institutional integration of research component of those national climate services. So that means that will be subjects that will integrate the research at institutional level between key players, the research platform organization in our consortium. So it's developing common tools and methodologies. It's propagate climate scenarios, viabilities, and uncertainties associated. It also provide local information on impact for some specific sectors. So I don't want to go more in detail, I have no time for that, but I think it's important to show how this ARNet will be placed or located in a more global European perspective, including the European roadmap presented by Marco. So we have tried to do that. It's a figure now quite complex. It has been improved over the last months with interaction with Commission, but also with KIC, with Copernicus. That still need to be improved, but basically it's showing the different components that you have to deal with concerning climate services. So here on the left you have the research side, the basic research, and the need for the research. And here, at the right side, the user communities with a different aspect from civil society to public or private sectors. And what we want to emphasize with this AeroNet, it's a green color here, it's to develop and strengthen the climate information translation between, I would say, the climate providers or purveyors with linking with the user community, and particularly emphasize this user demand on climate services. So with a special focus on impact, associating also uncertainties, impact of climate viability and change, but also associated not only climate scenarios, but also scenarios of socioeconomic scenarios, and how together they make sense for the different sectors. Of course, as I said, we want also to promote analysis from humanities and social sciences on the aspect of development of climate services, but also we want also to have a quality assessment, to develop a research field on quality assessment of climate services. I think it's really important to have climate services that are labeled or qualified in terms of usefulness for the field actors, for the different sectors or community. And I think it's something that particularly important for all of us. The other color, I don't want to detail, but in brief, yellow corresponding to some European Commission tools, H2020. The JPI Climate actually is making a call. It's in blue, actually, on improving climate predictability from months to decades. It's a joint venture, I would say, between JPI Climate and Belmont Funds and international funding networks. There is also Copernicus and Violet and more on the right side, linked with the private sectors on key climate. So in terms of timelines, we are targeting to open the call March 2016 and have a kick-off of the funded project June 2017. So that's the plan. So there's still a lot of job to do within the consortium. One slide on the additional activities. We want to go further to this call to better look at what are the different existing activities within the different national at a national level of the member state. We will revise the different JPI climate activities. JPI climate activities have yet started since 2012, these activities at national level, but we want to engage more the research performing organization on that, and we want also have also better mapping at international level, including European level. So we want to, basically what we want to propose is in 2016 to develop a better mapping on what is ongoing. There are many initiatives. Dedicate 2017 to make an analysis on synergy or mismatch between the different components and develop a joint vision. This thing is that will be not made only with this additional activity of this AeroNet, that will be strongly linked also to a CSA, ECOMS2, actually submitted to Commission, that link also JPI Climate, Key Climate, Copernicus, and other key players, including a large European Commission project. And so it's to have a joint vision for research relevant for climate services and make recommendation for new activities in 2018, 19, 2020, including, for example, pilot experiment of co-alignment of national activities. It's a key things that we want to promote, not only transnational goal, but alignment of national activities within performing organization. So I won't stop here. Definitely we need ideas from the users to improve how we co-design our activities, how we co-design our code, but also we want also to attract users to participate on the research project and co-produce. And so we are really open to any ideas to improve that. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, I'm Jean-Noël Tepo. I'm actually the next speaker. I liked your mapping of which illustrates the complexity of the galaxy.
The rainbow.
Yes, the 50 shades of whatever. My question is really because as a coordinator of Copernicus Climate Change Service, I'm still not so clear about how do we define the interfaces, the collaboration, the coordination. We speak about it, you speak about it, I speak about it, but there is no real formal framework to do this. So I don't know if it's an action that we should put on the Commission, different DGs maybe, to establish this. Or are we happy with a project like ECOMS, which will sort of achieve this maybe in an informal way? So I would like to hear your view about this.
It's a very good question. I think we have to start informal and to develop trust building between the different actors. And also, if you look at beyond H2020 or behind Copernicus or behind JPI Climate, it's always member state. But if you look at national level, it's different actors. Often it's different actors. So we need to have also a better coordination of the different national actors contributing to Copernicus, JPI Climate, or influencing program committee of different DGs, and I think it's crucial. So CSA comes to could play for that, but definitely we need to go to action and to have better interface. And so for me, it's not just an exchange of information; it's really also to co-design between the different European initiatives. But it's a real job.
Yes, thank you. My name is Christine Bunter from Wageningen University Research Center. I'm very interested in the institutional call, the in-kind call that you present. You mentioned something about how competitive the cash call will be. How will that work with the in-kind call?
2 and 3. So that will be not, it's really totally different. The research performing organization, basically, they will, basically we are asking the research performing organization to, if a project is selected by the independent scientific expert committee, they have to finance this project. So that means that we are asking overcommitment of research performing organization, but we cannot ask them to have a factor 1 on 10 or 1 on 5. So basically, the research performing organization, basically, first they will draft their topics. So that means the research director of the different performing organization, together the top research director, have to define what are the common object of interest between different research performing organizations, where there is a clear interest to promote joint projects with their in-kind support. So that will be for fall. In fall, basically there is 4 months for the 28 research platform organization to identify what are the common objects they want to promote together. It's not asking them to agree at 28 level, but it's just could be we are including, for example, bilateral cooperation. So in these systems, so that means it could be a relatively large suite of subtopics in this thing. So the first step is between the research director of performing organization to define what are the common objects that we want to open a call for our research teams. The second step, consortium of research teams, transnational research teams, have to answer to these different subtopics open with the in-kind. The third thing that will be evaluated by an independent scientific expert committee. And the scientific expert committee, they will evaluate also the cash project. And we will asking them to use the same excellence and quality control. So that means if the project from the in-kind side are not don't reach enough quality, we will not fund them. So when I said potentially the research organization can support project with a selection of 2 and 3, it's basically if they have reached enough quality and excellence. So it's something like that. So it's an interesting experiment. For me, what is particularly important that the expert committee, the members of this evaluation committee is not nominated by the performing organization because there will be highly conflict of interest. The evaluation committee is nominated by funders, by research funding organization, and performing organization agree because funding organization have a long experience on evaluation committee.
Okay, very briefly.
It's a little bit long to explain that. Sorry.
I'm just curious, you spoke about the focus on the climate impact models and especially with the socio-economic scenarios. To what extent will that also include development of the models, or is it only using the models in order to make projections and provide climate services, so to speak?
Yeah, I think what is particularly important is that there is that the development of the modules should be relevant for the user needs. So we have to start from the user needs and because there are always development of different modules to develop, but we are expecting some priorities in terms of research development, driven by the user needs. But that need to be explicit.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I haven't to introduce the last speaker because he has already done so himself, Jean-Noël Depot from the European Center on Mid-Range Weather Forecast. And he's presenting the third big actor in the field of opportunities in this arena, the Copernicus Climate Change Service. Welcome, Jean-Noël.
Sorry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will give you an overview of the Copernicus Climate Change Service and where we are at the moment. It's still very much a work in progress. First, I will tell you a little bit about Copernicus because although I feel that like I'm going to many meetings and show the same slides at the same time, each time somebody says, "Oh, first time I hear about Copernicus," So in case it's the case for some of you, so Copernicus is an Earth observation program, so with a space component, a Sentinel, an in-situ component, and then services. So 6 services, which are displayed here. And ECNWF has been entrusted by the European Commission to operate 2 services, the Atmosphere Monitoring Service and the Climate Change Service. And I'm in charge of coordinating the Climate Change Service. So I want to go back to the regulation, which stipulates what we are supposed to do. So I will read it for you. So the Climate Change Service shall provide information to increase the knowledge base to support adaptation and mitigation policies. It shall in particular contribute to the provision of essential climate variables, climate analysis, projections, and indicators at scales relevant to adaptation and mitigation strategies for various union, sectoral, and societal benefit areas. So this is our mandate, and this is what we have to build within the next few years. So our vision is summarized here. We want to create an authoritative source of climate information for Europe, and I will come back to it a bit later. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, so we want to build upon the national investments that have been made and are being made, as we heard in the previous talk, and we want to complement the national climate service providers. So there is a definition of scale that we have to define, and a definition of remits of this service versus what the national services are going to provide. And DG GROW in particular is very adamant that Copernicus should create jobs, so should generate some markets. So this is an important also a key performance indicator for the climate change service. So the 3 questions that we try to address, first is how is the climate changing? And for this, we are going to generate some information based on Earth observations and reanalysis. Then will the climate change continue, accelerate, decelerate? So we are in the area of predictions and projections. And what are the societal impacts? So this is where climate indicators and some sectoral information comes into play. The organization of the service is articulated around four blocks. So as I said earlier, we have an ecosystem which is already existing, from FP7 calls, JPI, Climate Kick, and then national member states, ESA, EUMETSAT, WMO. So there is already a lot to capitalize upon. So we are going to draw on these resources to build the service. And we'll have 4 blocks. First, the Climate Data Store, which is really the one-stop shop of climate information that is going to be generated in this climate change service. The sectoral information system, which will address a number of sectors which are considered relevant for the European Commission, and deriving some climate indicators specific to these sectors. And then we'll have a very important function here, which is the the evaluation and quality control function, which is going to ensure the quality of the climate information that will be coming out of this climate data store and this sectoral information system. And then we have the outreach and dissemination, which is about marketing and communicating about and training about the climate change services. So the portfolio of the climate change service, in a nutshell, it's about generating a series of essential climate variable data sets and climate indicators. So these essential climate variables can be observed, can be reanalyzed, or can be simulated. So in the future, and they have to be relevant to support the adaptation mitigation policies at European level and wider. So we are talking about, on the left side, about reanalysis, about ECV datasets generated by Earth observations, and progressively the sentinels will feed into this generation. There will be activities about data collection and data rescue and reprocessing as well to ensure the maximum exploitation or an optimal exploitation of these data sets for the Copernicus Climate Change Service. And then we also have a number of activities for in the modeling and in the prediction parts. So we have multimodal seasonal forecast predictions, and we also have climate projections. So when I add global and regional level, so climate projections, we are not going to reinvent CEMIP, but it's about facilitating access, supporting a bit of infrastructure, and providing some tools, diagnostic tools in particular, to make these products more useful than to only the scientific community. Sectoral information system. So this is about tailoring climate indicators for our users. So the primary ones are it's quite institutional, and it's a European Commission. So we will provide data also via the EEA Climate Adapt platform. And then we also have the other users, so it can be science users, innovation and business developments. And an important element that is worth mentioning is that we are not going to provide only indicators and data sets, but also tools to support public and commercial applications. So the goal being to develop market, which we probably don't know about today, by providing tools and best practices. The goal is that by 2020, we cover around 30 essential climate variable data sets, and we address 8 to 10 sectors which have been earmarked by the Commission. The evaluation and quality control. So this activity will ensure that C3S delivers the state-of-the-art climate information to end users. So it will identify the gaps in the service. This is why I think if there is a link between the Copernicus and JPI, or what Patrick talked about earlier, I think this is within this box, and we need to work together to define this box properly. So this evaluation and quality control will in particular bring Copernicus with the research agenda in Europe, so for example Horizon 2020, but also the national research projects. It will continually monitor the quality of the products and services generated in the C3S. So in a nutshell, it should be a quality assurance body for the Copernicus products. And then the outreach and dissemination is about web content provision and management, public outreach, coordination with national outreach efforts. We want to have a seamless information stream to the users. So at Copernicus Climate Change Service level, we don't want to see political boundaries over Europe, but it has to be also consistent with what the different nations will provide at national level. So that's an important activity. It's about liaison with public authorities, and then events, training, and education. Where are we today? We signed a delegation agreement with the European Commission at the end of 2014. So we are somewhere here now, so at the very, very beginning. And we have been generously given 2 years or 2 to 3 years to have an operational service. It is challenging because the climate change service starts from scratch, more or less. It does not benefit like the marine service or the atmosphere service from 10 years of pre-operational activity. So it's a fast-track service from that point of view. And as I said earlier, by the end of 2020, we should have in our portfolio 30 CVs and 8 to 10 sectors. This is the list. I put it in. I don't want to go into the detail of this list, but I wanted to have it on the presentation so that you can have a look at it at your leisure. It is tentative. and we are actually discussing with the Commission and others on whether we keep this one or we modify slightly the ECVs that we want to provide to the service. So the final remarks. So first, the focus of the C3S, Copernicus Climate Change Service, user engagement. So we have organized a number of workshops to ensure that whatever the activities that are going to be procured, there is a buy-in of the community, and we are continuing to do so. We really want to build upon and add value to the current capabilities in Europe and not duplicate what is already done. This is why we have contributed to the roadmap that was discussed previously to ensure the consistency between Copernicus and other activities. We want to provide access to climate information, tools and best practices, and facilitate the uptake and growth of the climate service market. So the idea is really to provide harmonized and pan-European quality controlled information. So if we manage to have a sort of a certifying authority at the end of this few years, I think we will have achieved what we wanted to do. And there will be a cross-cutting role of the climate change service across the other Copernicus service that we have to exploit as well. And finally, I think that for this discussion today, I see two-way interaction between the Copernicus activities, which are fundamentally operational. We need to remember that. And the European Climate Service Research Agenda. First, you have to consider that C3S is a resource. It will be a resource. There will be a wealth of data sets, indicators, tools, best practices that will be available following the free and open data policy of the Commission. So this will be there and available for everybody, science community and others. I think that C3S should inform the European research agenda, especially with the evaluation and quality control mechanisms that we are putting in place. We should be able to identify the shortcomings, the gaps, to deliver operational services. So there should be this dialogue taking place. And conversely, the design of the service needs to facilitate the uptake by the C3S of the research and innovation projects that we are going to discuss today to ensure that the Copernicus products remain state-of-the-art while being operational. And I think I will stop here. Thank you. We can do it at coffee.
Jean-Ray, we can continue discussion on each of the topics from the floor.
So I'm one of the people that has seen this several times, but it suddenly occurred to me that you made a clear distinction between reanalysis and then you said other data. So if it's in situ data, weather station data, where does that fit into this?
Well, what we want is to have to make sure that we have at our disposal historical data records, in situ and satellite based. So these data are useful per se, because they are ECVs per se. They can feed into reanalysis and they can be used for verification of any Copernicus product. So we need to have a repository of these data sets, long historical data records, just for as a resource for the service.
Will they be available to users?
That's the plan, yes. Yeah, yes. And not only available as such, but we also want to, when they are assimilated in the reanalysis system, we want to provide also what we call the feedbacks, so the discrepancies between models and observations, so that people can make or can take advantage of this.
about space and time resolution, what is your strategy for downscaling?
So the remits of the Copernicus, if I take the example of reanalysis, the global reanalysis, typically we are talking about 40 to 25 kilometers global. And then there will be an activity dedicated to European regional reanalysis. For the projections, we are not going to do runs. So the idea originally is to take CEMIP 5 and then down the line CEMIP 6 and the Eurocortex type of runs. And if, again, this evaluation and quality control identify gaps, and we had a workshop on climate projections where it emerged that some, the matrix is not completely full, so perhaps Copernicus could also support filling this matrix for regional climate runs.
I think we have to stop now because we're already 10 minutes over time, and we have to leave this building at 7:30, I was told, so earlier as expected. All of the time then goes from the evening reception, but I'm sure we can discuss this also in the coffee breaks and in the evening. So thank you to the speakers who presented the arena. We come then after the coffee break. We'll start at 2:30 with the discussion on the different roles in the field.